Well, joining our discussion now, Benjamin Wittes, editor-in-chief of Lawfare, senior fellow at the Brookings Institution, and an MSNBC legal analyst. Matt Miller is with us, a former spokesman for Attorney General Eric Holder, and an MSNBC contributor. And David Frum, senior editor for The Atlantic and author of Trumpocracy, The Corruption of the American Republic. And Benjamin Wittes, you know James Comey, you're a friend of James Comey. You were one of the first people to be aware of even the existence of these memos and these conversations that James Comey had with the president. I want to get your overall reaction to what you just listened to in the last hour.
Well, so I mean, it's obviously a pretty dramatic thing to see that interview kind of and the memos sort of unfold through the lens of that interview. Look, the really striking thing is that these memos say the same thing as the book, and that the book says the same thing as his testimony. And, you know, as Rachel just said, you know, when you're looking for indicia of credibility, consistency over time is one of the key ones, and particularly the ability to recount in detail an incident that you recorded and talked to people about in real time, when you then don't have access to that material, and to do it in a way that's consistent in a lot of particular details. It's entirely consistent. And I think, you know, over time, that's going to sink in for people that, you know, this isn't a joke. This isn't an effort to smear the president. It's just what happened.
And Matt Miller, we see in the very first memo that James Comey wrote, he suggests at that point a classification of secret, but he also offers to the archivist and others handling this memo that he would accept any recommendation to either raise or lower the classification level. So he wasn't himself deciding exactly how these memos should be held.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And one of the other memos, the one that I think is probably the most important, where he reports on the conversation with the president, where the president asked him to back off the Mike Flynn investigation. That is the one that he gave to a colleague of his, a professor at Columbia Law School, and that colleague gave it to the New York Times. That memo was actually unclassified, and that's important because this has been the subject of a good bit of dispute, a good bit of criticism from Republicans on the Hill who've tried to argue that he leaked classified information by doing so. We found out tonight, it was confirmed that that wasn't a classified memo, and it wasn't at least a violation of classification for him to share that with someone outside the government.
And David Frum, as we said, one of the big news items of the day is Rudy Giuliani formally signing on as part of the Trump legal defense team in the Mueller investigation. And toward the end of Rachel's interview, James Comey reveals that based on some of the things Rudy Giuliani was saying publicly during the campaign about possible October surprises, that the FBI, at James Comey's insistence, started to investigate that kind of thing at that time during the campaign.
Yes, that was something. There's one thing that struck me. It's a really picky thing, but this is the picky thing that I picked up on in this interview. And it's an indication of what a strange fantasy world the President of the United States lives in. James Comey says that President Trump told him that Vladimir Putin said, "We in Russia have the best hookers in the world," on a phone call. Now, supposedly, according to the record, that is the very first phone call, the very first conversation that President Trump and Vladimir Putin ever had. What a strange thing, even for Vladimir Putin to say. But, you know, that story actually comes from a press conference that Vladimir Putin had on television alongside the president of Moldova in January 2017. You know, Vladimir Putin spoke not of hookers, but of what he called girls of lower social responsibility, and said, but ours in Russia are the best in the world. He said that on television in the course of explaining why Donald Trump was innocent of the charges in the Steele dossier. So Donald Trump saw this. It looks like what happened was Donald Trump saw this on television, as we all did, then internalized this as something that Vladimir Putin said to him, very improbably, and then told the director of the FBI that this thing he'd seen on TV was something that Vladimir Putin had said to him. And it just resonates with me as an example of how much of the things that Donald Trump says that are untrue, or probably untrue as in this case, are things that he himself does not know the truth or falsity of.